In the stillness of a vast ancient desert, a lone mystic sits in silent meditation. No words, no movement, and yet the sands shift, the winds realign, as if reality itself is responding to his thoughts. This is not fantasy, it's a forgotten science, one that once shaped reality itself. For thousands of years, mystics, priests, and initiates of the ancient world have taught a secret. Reality is not something you live in. It is something you generate, moment by moment, through your consciousness. From the Vedic texts of India to the Hermetic writings of Egypt, from Kabbalistic teachings to ancient chants carved into temple stone, one message echoes through time. The human mind is not just a receiver of reality. It is a transmitter, a co-creator, a tuning fork that shapes the world through frequency, intention, and inner alignment. But this is not the simplified law of attraction you've heard about. This is not wishful thinking. The ancients described a precise vibrational mechanism, one involving thought, emotion, sacred symbols, and resonance between soul and cosmos. A mechanism that allowed them not just to react to life, but to shape it. In this video, we'll uncover the ancient science of manifestation. How reality was once created, not with effort, but with energy. And how, by remembering this sacred art, we can awaken our power to shape reality once more. Part 1. Thought as the first cause. Long before science mapped the atom, before religion gave God a name, the ancient initiates understood something profound. Everything begins in the mind. In the Hermetic tradition, this was the first principle. The all is mind, the universe is mental. This wasn't metaphor, it was a metaphysical law. All that exists, matter, time, light, form, emerges first as consciousness, not as concept, but as vibration. In Kabbalah, the process of creation begins with Keter, the crown, the highest sephira on the tree of life. It is the primordial thought, the infinite potential of the divine mind. From there, energy descends through the sephirot, layer by layer, until it crystallizes into Malkuth, the physical world. Matter is not the beginning. It is the end result of a vibrational cascade, guided by thought. The Egyptians encoded this truth in their deities and sacred words. They spoke of Sia, the divine power of perception and inner knowing, and Hu, the power of the spoken word. Together, they shaped creation. To speak was not to communicate, it was to crystallize vibration into form. To think was not to imagine, it was to emit. Because in these ancient systems, every thought was a frequency, a ripple in the energetic fabric of reality. What modern physics now begins to confirm, that energy responds to observation, that particles shift under awareness, was already known, lived, and practiced thousands of years ago. Your thoughts are not locked in your head, they radiate like waves, and each wave carries a specific signature, a tone, a geometry, a rhythm, that attracts and organizes matter in resonance with itself. This is the essence of vibrational manifestation. What you hold in mind, you begin to summon into form, not through magic, but through frequency. But there's a deeper layer the ancients understood. Thought alone is not enough, because not all thoughts carry the same power. A distracted mind broadcasts static, but a focused mind, charged with emotion, intention, and clarity, becomes a transmitter. One that can bend probabilities, shape timelines, and align external conditions with internal resonance. This is why ancient teachers didn't just teach thinking. They taught how to think, how to cultivate inner stillness, mental purity, and alignment with the higher will. Because thought, at its highest level, is not personal, it is creative force. And to shape that force into reality, the ancients used symbols, geometry, and sound as bridges between mind and matter. But how did the ancients harness that force? What tools did they use to bridge thought and matter, to turn invisible frequencies into visible form? In the next part, we'll explore the forgotten tools of sacred manifestation, symbols, language, geometry, and encoded intention, the building blocks of reality as seen through the eyes of initiates. Part 2. Symbols, words, and sacred geometry. Once a thought is born in the mind, it needs a vessel to take shape. And in the ancient world, that vessel was not a machine. It was a symbol. Symbols, words, and sacred geometry were seen as more than just visual tools. They were vibrational molds, templates that gave invisible intention a tangible structure in the field of reality. To the ancients, a symbol was not a metaphor. It was a living frequency, an energetic form that could hold and project meaning beyond language. In Egypt, hieroglyphs weren't simply alphabetic characters. Each glyph was a sacred archetype, carved with mathematical precision, aligned with celestial forces. To inscribe a glyph was to invoke a cosmic principle, to literally speak reality into being. In Sanskrit, every mantra was constructed with phonetic resonance in mind. Chanting wasn't a ritual of hope. It was a tuning act. Each syllable vibrated through the subtle body like a wave of calibration, restoring coherence between the individual and the universal field. Hebrew, the language of Kabbalah, embedded layers of meaning within every character. The sacred name YHVH was more than a word. It was a tetragrammaton encoding the divine pattern of creation itself. To utter it aloud was said to bridge the seen and unseen worlds. Across all spiritual traditions, these elements formed the basis of manifestation. Yantras, sigils, glyphs, mandalas. All were blueprints of intention made visible. Why? Because energy follows structure, and symbols are structure, vibrational geometry drawn into 2 or 3 dimensions. They provide a stable framework for consciousness to anchor itself, and then ripple outward. But symbols alone weren't enough. The ancients knew this deeply. A symbol without focus is static. A chant without presence is just sound. It's presence that transforms sound into sacred resonance. Form needs fuel, and that fuel is frequency. That's why ancient rituals always wove together multiple elements: sound, image, movement, breath. To raise energy, to encode intention, and to transmit it into the subtle planes. Even gestures, like mudras or hand seals, served as energetic circuits, amplifying and directing the flow of energy through the body and beyond. Every movement, every word, every symbol was a deliberate act of co-creation. But for it to work, something more was needed. Something that cannot be seen with the eye or etched in stone emotional charge. It is not thought alone that moves reality, but thought infused with feeling. This is the missing key in modern interpretations of manifestation. In today's world, we often focus on the idea, but forget the frequency that gives it life. They felt it into resonance, deep, magnetic, embodied. And in the next part, we'll explore that hidden engine of creation, the human heart, where frequency becomes force. And it was that resonance, pure, coherent, magnetic, that made the universe respond. Part 3. Emotion, intention, and the frequency of the heart. If the mind is the architect of reality, then the heart is the power source. Modern science is only beginning to understand what the ancients always knew: that the heart doesn't just pump blood. It emits an electromagnetic field thousands of times stronger than the brain. According to the HeartMath Institute, the field of the heart can influence not only your own brainwaves, but also the emotional and energetic states of people around you. When the heart enters a state of coherence, a smooth, ordered rhythm, it radiates a powerful signal of stability into the environment. But this isn't new. In ancient spiritual systems, the heart was seen as the seat of consciousness. Not just a metaphor for love, but the center of magnetism. Not the magnetic pull of iron, but the vibrational magnetism that draws experiences, people, and patterns into your field. This is why initiates in mystery schools, yogic ashrams, and temple traditions spent years not just studying thought, but learning to purify emotion. Because thought without aligned feeling is scattered. But when intention is fused with clear, coherent emotion, it becomes a resonant wave. One strong enough to shape the quantum field. That's why ancient practices like meditation, mantra chanting, and sacred ritual weren't about begging the universe to deliver something. They were about attuning the emotional body to a specific frequency. It's not enough to think abundance. You have to feel it, not as longing, but as embodiment. Because longing vibrates with lack, but embodiment radiates as already being. This is the emotional alchemy that mystics mastered, turning fear into stillness, turning chaos into rhythm, turning desire into presence. The symbol might be powerful. The mantra might be ancient. But if the heart is closed, incoherent, or divided, nothing moves. Your feeling state is the language the universe understands best. It doesn't read your words. It reads your vibration. So, manifestation, in its truest sense, is not a technique. It's a state of being. It's the art of becoming magnetically aligned, where what you seek begins to seek you back, because you're already resonating on its frequency. The ancients didn't attract reality. They didn't chase reality. They embodied its frequency. And reality came into sync. But this raises a deeper question. Is this level of creation only for the initiated, the sages, the mystics, the enlightened? Or can anyone, no matter how ordinary, learn to generate this coherence and awaken the power to shape their own world? In the next part, we'll reveal why this knowledge was hidden, and how reclaiming it now could change not just your life, but the very structure of society. Part 4. Why it was hidden. The power of inner reality. If you can shape your reality from within, you no longer need the systems built around you, and that, throughout history, has been the greatest threat to power. The ancient science of manifestation, rooted in vibration, intention, and emotional coherence, was once common knowledge among spiritual initiates. But when empires rose, when dogma took root, when control became currency, this knowledge had to disappear. Why? Because a person who understands that reality responds to their inner frequency is a person who cannot be manipulated. They don't need fear-based religion. They don't need hierarchical systems. They don't need to seek power, because they are power. And so, over centuries, this inner technology was deliberately suppressed. Organized religions reframed divine connection as something external, accessible only through priests, sacraments, and rituals you didn't control. Materialist science dismissed consciousness as a side effect of biology, stripping the soul of its generative force. Governments and institutions built systems that taught obedience, not imagination, conformity, not creativity, dependence, not sovereignty. But the truth didn't vanish. It became an underground current, encrypted in myth, preserved in symbols, waiting for resonance to unlock it. In the sacred temples of Egypt, in the mathematical mysteries of Pythagoras, in the secret manuscripts of Kabbalists and Gnostics, the flame was kept alive. The mystery schools preserved this wisdom, not as superstition, but as a roadmap for inner liberation. They taught that reality creation was not about controlling others, but mastering self-resonance, that the world outside is only ever an echo, a mirror of the vibration you carry within. This is why ancient initiations were never about gaining belief. They were about becoming a living frequency, a coherent field through which spirit could flow freely. The true initiate didn't pray for something. They became the frequency of that thing, and reality adjusted accordingly, because the universe does not respond to empty words. It responds to the energy behind them, to your field, to your alignment, and that's what made this knowledge so dangerous. Not because it was dark or forbidden, but because it was liberating. Liberating in a way that breaks systems, collapses illusions, and returns power to where it always belonged, within you. But here's the real question now. If this truth has been buried for so long, can we still access it? Can we, in this chaotic and distracted modern world, still activate the ancient science of manifestation? Not as wishful thinking, but as a sacred practice. In the next part, we'll return to the roots. We'll uncover the steps once used by mystics to shape reality from the inside out, and explore how you too can begin living as the conscious architect of your own experience. Because the code was never lost, it was always waiting for you to remember. Part 5. Manifestation as a spiritual practice. The ancients never saw manifestation as magic. To them, it wasn't a trick. It was a discipline, a sacred art rooted in alignment, not in control. To manifest was not to force the world to obey your will. It was to synchronize your inner frequency with the rhythm of the cosmos and let reality unfold accordingly. This was the real science, a process of harmonic convergence between thought, emotion, symbol, and action. They followed a sequence, one forgotten by time, but still alive in the soul: inner image. First, they formed a precise vision within, clear, emotionally charged, and aligned with their higher self. Vibrational emotion. Then, they tuned their emotional body to match the feeling of that vision being already real. Symbolic encoding. Through sacred geometry, sigils, or words of power, they embedded the intention into form. Ritual or meditation. Through focused practice, they amplified the frequency, broadcasting it into the subtle planes. Aligned action. Finally, they acted in the world, not from doubt, but from resonance. Their steps matched their state. This was not superstition, it was vibrational engineering. But here's the most profound part. You don't need to be a priest or mystic to do this. You're already doing it, all the time. The healer who envisions someone's recovery and feels it into being. The inventor who receives ideas like downloads from nowhere. The artist who paints emotions into form before understanding them. All are practicing ancient science without knowing its name. Because manifestation is not something you learn. It is something you remember, something encoded into your design. As natural as breath, as essential as heartbeat. The misunderstanding comes when we confuse manifestation with control. The goal is not to bend the world to your will, but to become so aligned the world flows into harmony with your field, so reality begins to mirror your wholeness. This is the essence of spiritual manifestation, not to get what you want, but to become who you truly are. And when you become that frequency, the world no longer resists, it resonates. And in that becoming, the world around you shifts. Not because you demanded it, but because your field changed. In the next video, we'll go deeper into the ancient mechanics of manifestation, into the language of symbols that encoded this knowledge for those who were ready to see. Because every spiral, every star, every sacred eye carved into temple walls was more than art. It was a code, a key, a reminder of your power to create, not through force, but through resonance. And it's time to remember how to read them. Final CTA. If you've ever sensed that your thoughts do more than echo in your mind, that they ripple into the world around you, share this video. Because the ancients didn't guess that reality responds to consciousness. They lived it, they mapped it, and they left behind a blueprint, waiting for you to remember how to use it. You are not here to survive reality. You are here to generate it, through vibration, intention, and remembrance. In the next video, we'll decode one of the universe's most sacred patterns. A hidden key woven into nature, art, music, and the human form itself. The code of the universe, deciphering the Fibonacci sequence, because the math of creation is the language of the soul.